It is 6 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. Alyssa, roll call, please.
Brett,
Here.
Bob,
Yes.
Yes.
Di,
Yes.
Alex.
Yes.
Renee, yes.
All right, please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There is a copy of the Rouse's Open Meetings Act, I'm going to display it on the wall. Feel free to look at it. Number 3, approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Any amendments, discussion, changes that you see fit? Hearing none. Alyssa?
Mike,
Yes.
Di,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Renee, yes. Brett,
Yes.
Bob.
Yes.
3.1 board minutes from the March meeting. Any changes or amendments that you guys can think of? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve board minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion, hearing none. Alyssa?
Alex,
Yes.
Renee,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Di.
Yes.
3.2 claims, there's the lawn service claim. I didn't see any others, I don't think so.
I'll make a motion to approve all claims besides the lawn service.
Second.
Any discussion? Alyssa?
Renee,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Di,
Yes.
Alex.
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve the ED lawn service claim?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Alyssa?
Renee,
Yes.
Brett,
Abstain.
Bob,
Yes.
To Mike. Oh, yes.
Di.
Yes.
Alex. Thank you.
Moving on to informational items. 4.1 treasurer's reports. Any questions on any of those said funds and reports pertaining to? Moving on to 4.2 policy review. Brandon?
Okay, our monthly policy review, I have 3 highlighted. Most of them are pretty straightforward, maybe a couple sentences within the band of policies that are included there. The 3 that I highlighted were 4037, 4043, and 4044. 4037 is our RIF, our reduction in force policy. It carries specific guidelines, criteria for reduction in force. We hope we never have to do that, but if for unforeseen reasons we would have to move forward with the reduction in force, we'd want to make sure we have a good policy in place, and we do. 4043, professional boundaries, in essence prohibits relationships, grooming, and provide guidance and communications. Administration provides direction regarding communications, multiple recipients, preferably through district resources. Burden of proof lies solely with the employee if it were to ever come into question. It's something that's reviewed on a yearly basis with employees. It is a policy that we have and we have in force. 4044 is political activity. We revisit this one around campaign time each year, about acceptable and unacceptable practices on duty time with district resources. The big thing is not providing information is different than campaigning. If you're going to campaign, you can't do it with district resources, and you can't do it on contract time as a classified or certificated staff member. Any questions on any of those policies? Because then we got to go a slightly different direction here. Okay, 60/40 is the pre-kindergarten program policy. I had shared out, Mr. Kreifels had shared a draft policy previously. He and I discussed over the course of time and thought it was a good idea to have something in policy in addition to having the handbook available for families. 60/40 as it exists, what you see before you is a combination of KSB stock policy and a little bit of the David City policy that Mr. Kreifels had presented previously. Is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, actually I have hard copies here too if you guys want it.
And I plan to just talk about this if you want me to, instead of my report, like, because this is kind of the biggest thing going on. So, you have this top policy draft that you have electronically is the same as the top 2 pages front and back. Yep, you're welcome. There we go. Anybody else? Here's one for you too. You have it. So I just am willing to give you guys any context that you want. So what I did is, like I said, put 3 things here. The top one is the policy for you, or the potential policy for you to consider or revise before you adopt, things like that. Beneath it, there's a draft from my January proposal when I talked to you about the David City policy that they had in place, and there was I had kind of a draft there as well in January and February. So that's there just as a reference, and that just kind of shows you the difference. Nothing changed in effect, but that's just the difference between merging the draft that we had and the stock policy that Brandon got from KSB. So again, just changes wording, and I think more than anything is uniform with our other policies that way. And then the final page there is the David City policy that I had shared with you back in January. So I just wanted to share that with you. I guess in my mind, I think it's important that we have a policy for a whole slew of reasons, but a couple of them specifically are that ultimately we could put this information, especially the priority for how and when students get into the preschool program, or those that do not, which we had 95 applicants, we can serve 60 at absolute max. So there's a lot of people that didn't get a spot that wanted one. We can put the priority for how students are selected or how far they are up in that ranking order. We can put it in a policy, or we can put it in the handbook. However, if I were a board member, I would prefer that it's in a policy, because handbooks are typically adopted in June or July. And so then that's after the time when we've selected our preschoolers. So if you ever want to make a change, we're in the rears and the rears and the rears. Whereas if it's a policy, my understanding would be that you guys can adopt or revise or adopt a new draft of that at any given time. And so I don't know, if I were you, I'd want maybe more leeway in that. I also think it's easier to communicate out, because typically the handbooks are given to parents, after they've been offered a spot, right? Whereas if this is a policy, people are applying for preschool, I can have this for them and say, yep, and here's how we go through and use the priority for determining who gets a spot. Some things that are super important are, our current preschool program is obviously a Head Start program. So we serve students that are income eligible or they have a verified disability. So because of that, it's an early intervention model, which falls in line with all of the guidance from NDE for any early childhood programs. But that puts emphasis on 4-year-olds first, then 3-year-olds, and 5-year-olds after that. So 5-year-olds meaning kindergarten eligible, so by that July 31st deadline. I think we should stick with that. Currently, we can't have kindergarten eligible kids in our Head Start program. In the future, with the district program, we can. So that it offers a little bit more flexibility, like if there's room and your kid's kindergarten eligible, but you prefer for them to have preschool, it would be an option. It's just very unlikely because we have so many applications. Another, I think, important point, and this was in the drafts that I shared with you in January and February, but I want to be really open and overt about it because I just think it's important to be open and clear. This top draft that I'm recommending for you to either approve or revise before you approve does give a certain level of preference for staff members' kids. I know some of you probably are fans of that idea, some of you probably are not, but I just want to be super clear about it. And it's been in there all along, but I want to say it out loud expressly. The thought behind that is really, honestly, kind of like a recruitment retention tool for teachers. That's really where that idea came from. I think some people love the idea, some people hate it. I just want to fully own, like, hey, that's on me, that was my idea, so whether people are in favor or not, I just want to own that and be super honest about it. But, given that you would potentially be adopting this policy, that could be something that you could either keep or eliminate or revise. There's probably a lot more to talk about, but what are questions or comments from you on any of this?
What kind of feedback have you had on that, the priorities?
I have had a couple families pretty upset. Really though, and this is kind of a separate point, but I would absolutely take your guys' guidance on it because it's, we are talking about district resources. It hasn't been so much, did my kid get a spot in preschool or not? Not a single family that got denied reached out with a complaint, not a single one. The contentious part was people wanting full day and that full day session filling up and they're offered a half day spot, even if their half day spot was their second preference, that was really when people got upset. And so, I think what I would like to do in the future, and we're learning with this in the first year, what I would like to do is offer all full day or all half day. Just so people know from the get-go, like, if you're offered a spot, it's definitely gonna be full day because they're all full day, or it's definitely gonna be half day because they're all half day. What I did, just so everybody knows, with the right under capacity limitation on page 1, that's where the priority order starts, and then it creeps onto page 2. What I did is, when we got to the March 15th deadline, I went through and coded every single application, priority 1, priority 2, priority 3, all the way down to, I think, if I remember correctly, there's 14 priority levels there. We got to priorities 6 or 7, so we got a ways down there, got most of our 4-year-olds offered spots. But then once they were coded, then I went through and I made sure that those top, I'm using rough numbers because the max number per room is 20, those top 60 families basically were given either their first or second preference. So of the top 60 in the top priority, they got either their first or second choice. The tough part was that a lot of people's preferences from the time they filled out the application to the time that it was actually time to offer a spot, they were like, oh, we thought that would work, but it doesn't anymore. And like, hands are a little bit tight on that one, so.
How did you decide who got the full day versus the half day? Did you also use this priority list in terms of all of the resident students age 4? How did you decide who got a full day?
So I did, and there was a little finagling because some of the spots, so full day, obviously, lots of people wanted full day, and lots of people wanted morning. Our afternoon program, our afternoon classroom still is not full. At one point we were up to like 15, 16 kids, and then a few more families said, you know what, we thought they were gonna work, we accepted our spot, but now they're dwindling even further. So our afternoon classroom only has 13 kids. So, back to your question, I looked through and looked at, okay, first preference, I should say, for most families was full day. Not all families, but most wanted full day. And then lots and lots of people wanted morning, and then some people wanted afternoon. And so I did what I could with those top, I'm saying 60, but it was actually 18 times 3, not 20 times 3, because we filled it 18. Did what I could to make sure we got everybody a spot. Does that make sense?
And 16 to 18 were free and reduced lunch,
More than that.
more than that, okay.
Whoa, sorry, free and reduced lunch, that's a good question. I can look and count. When I said more than that, what I was thinking was kids currently in our program, but that would include the number of kids that maybe aren't income eligible but have an IEP. So when I said more, that number is between 20 and 30.
So Ben, I don't know if you can answer this, what is the total cost for this program?
I don't know the total cost. Mr. LaValle gave me the tuition fee rate, I guess, to give the families that are not eligible for free.
So we don't know how much the program's gonna cost, operating costs, or where's the money coming from? Is it-
I don't know. That's a Mr. LaValle question.
So part of it is general fund and part of it will be tuition based. The part that we don't know is how many of those income eligible would be included. I can give you a number of what it would be if everybody paid full fee for every single spot. Part of the program is dependent on how many of those IEP or free reduced lunch students that we have within the program.
So if they're free and reduced, they don't pay, or they pay on a scale?
No.
If they meet the income guideline for free or reduced lunch, they don't pay at all. So either
Where do you
they,
get that from? 'Cause that's,
those are federally set, those income guidelines.
because I reached out just earlier about David City, and they said that all 4 pay something. It's nothing's 100%.
They
free.
do. David City, so in David City's policy, and it actually says it in there if you want to look at that last page. What they do is, if, let's say, for example, a family is eligible for free lunch, they don't pay for the preschool program, but they still pay a stipend to offset the cost of the meal. And that's not how Brandon had asked that we set ours up. So they pay, I think, $40 a month,
45.
something like that, yeah.
Yeah, 45, 152, 20, and 130 are the 4 numbers that I got. So 220 for a full day, just normal, no IEP, regular.
Mhm.
And then reduced to 130 for some that have a little bit of, and then obviously you get
you get 45 for your lowest end, and you had 150, yeah, those are the four. I'm just curious, now, I guess the budget part again, I mean, what's this gonna cost us overall?
Like total figure.
For the total figure,
Yeah,
are you talking
staff,
curriculum?
curriculum,
You're talking staff?
lunch, everything.
You're talking everything together. So right now, our program, because we do it through Head Start, is somewhere over 300,000 because it's Head Start based. What we're gonna do is we're gonna be much leaner with staff. We're gonna be much more efficient with curriculum. We're gonna use supplies that we already have. I would guess this program to be 200 to 250,000 in the first year, with subsequent years being more efficient than that yet.
And then, can they register, like, I see a lot of schools go to kindergarten twice? For that 5 year that's eligible to go to kindergarten, but
Are you asking for preschool or kindergarten?
kindergarten, it's eligible for kindergarten, when they go the first year, can they go to kindergarten again?
That's possible, yep.
Are we open to that? I'm just curious, is that something?
There are parents that do that occasionally,
Okay.
yeah.
Is that solely a parent's choice?
So ultimately, whether a child, so that's technically a retention, right? Like repeating a grade. Ultimately, with current state law, it's the principal's decision, right? Which of course, then that decision can be appealed to the superintendent and things like that. However, really in a situation like that where, you know, where we get a little more concerned about it is when the teacher and I, or maybe the teachers, if the child maybe has an IEP, or that maybe it sometimes includes the entire IEP team, where we get a little bit more concerned is when we're saying, hey, we're concerned about your child not progressing, right? Or we're concerned about like maybe that your child needs a little bit more intense intervention or things like that, where we're saying, we're not sure that they're really ready with their current plan to move on to first grade. That's where I think it's more that's where I know it's more common where I kind of step in and say, hey, here's what we need to do. But there has never been a situation, at least that I can remember or think of, where a family has wanted their child to repeat kindergarten and we've said no. What I say to families is, if you're gonna do it now. We don't wanna have this conversation in first, second, third grade or so on, that if you're gonna have your kiddo repeat kindergarten or do 2 years, please do that now. Don't have them repeat first grade or whatever the case may be. Because most of the time when that happens, there's kind of an external reason that the family has in their mind of, I wanna make sure they're a certain age when they graduate, or they have a sibling that's close in age, or they're twins and one is progressing and one is not, or, you know, there's all kinds of kind of outside factors with that. So I don't think there's been a time that someone has wanted their child to repeat kindergarten and we haven't allowed it.
So if you went with 2 full day options, we'd only be able to have 20 some in each section?
Yeah, so just to kind of clear up the numbers between like 20 and 18, we cannot, per Rule 11, have more than 20 students in a preschool classroom. No matter how big the room is, no matter how many adults are in there, it's 20 kids per room. There are, when I say no matter how big the room is, there are like square footage requirements and things, but I'm just saying, if you had all the space in the world and it was all in one room, you still are maxed to 20 kids. So the way this policy is written, that top page one, the one that I would like you to consider, is that we can fill up to 20, but that we fill to 18 on March 15th, and then if we have applicants who would qualify for free or reduced lunch, or have an IEP, or things like that, that we can add them in so we have a little bit of room. And we already needed that. So on March 15th, we filled the full day classroom to 18, and then we had 2 late applicants, and we knew, because they're currently in our program, we were contacting these families, please apply, your child needs preschool again, please apply. Didn't do it, but they did finally apply after March 15th, and so we were able to keep them in our preschool program instead of saying, hey, sorry, you're out of luck, and stay home even though you have these risk factors in your life. So that's where the 18 and 20 are. But yeah, if we did 2 full day rooms, we would be maxed at 20 kids, so that's a maximum of 40 kids that we could serve. That said, it's tough, because like I said, our afternoon class has 13 kids.
Yeah.
I mean, and why? Because of naps, right? We know, I mean, that's logical. So that's the hard part. The thing I would say to you, as far as, you know, a couple other school districts, what they do, you know, I think it's important to consider that preschool and childcare, or preschool and daycare, are very different things. But also, in some cases, they overlap, right? And so, Cedar Bluffs, they actually, and I'm not necessarily advocating for this, I'm just saying, sharing information with you. Cedar Bluffs has a preschool program, and then they also have a daycare for their staff members' children. They do not have preference for staff members' kids in their preschool program, but they do have preference for staff members' kids in the daycare. McCook has a preschool, they do give preference to staff members' kids as well. So not something that we have to do, it is something that I've been obviously suggesting for the last couple months, but really ultimately I'm 100% fine with
Does
whatever
Cedar
you guys
Bluffs fund a
decide.
lot of that through grants?
I don't know, that's a good question. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
have we,
I'm not so
researched
sure.
grants, have we,
We've looked at it, we're not eligible
why aren't we?
through the state.
What was the reason?
I can't remember what they told me.
We reached out, I had talked with, because Brandon wanted me to go down that route, right? Like, what can we do to save some money here or offset costs? So, we were knocking on doors trying to figure out grants, things like that. A lot of, it depends, there's various types of grants. In the long run, what I did is reach out to the ESU because they have their early childhood pros, who are also their special education pros. And they were like, yeah, you are not eligible. Don't even bother looking, you're not eligible for any of the grants that we know about. Some of those grants are expansion grants, which we are not eligible for because we weren't expanding our program, we were just, basically organizing it differently. And then also, we weren't eligible for some of the grants because we technically had the opportunity to continue as a Head Start program. The reason we're not doing that is because now we're able to meet the needs of those students and fill the empty spots with other community members, which is why we're going away from Head Start. So,
I have a question.
yeah.
I knew nothing about Rule 11, so I did some digging on my own, but the deeper I dug, the more information I was finding, and there are a lot of studies out there that pre-K is not good for kids. I mean, it's actually harmful. The state of Tennessee, Vanderbilt did a study, and it was in Psychology Today that it was actually harmful. And there are some other ones, and it's like, do we have a way to look at our Head Start kids? I mean, like, these kids were having more IEPs, they were having more discipline problems, and they're trying to figure out why, if they were too young to start, like, in a school like that, I don't know. But it's like, do we have a way to track our Head Start kids,
Yep, we do. And actually, next school year, we won't set it up, right in August, but when we're a few months in, we'll start that Early Childhood Advisory Committee, which is required by Rule 11. So if you wanted to join that committee, you'd be more than welcome to do that. And so, like I had shared earlier, the Early Childhood Advisory Committee really functions mostly as like building collaborations and cooperation for early childhood programming in the community. It's not just quality assurance for our preschool program. But it also mirrors policy committee, which is quality assurance, right? And so we can look at, in that committee, our goal developmental objective data, and that would be something that you'd be welcome to do as well. So that can give us a view on how individual kids are growing. Obviously it'd be coded so we don't see names, but it also can look at program data on how kids are progressing from the beginning of the year to the end. I think a couple things, I had not heard that, so I would please send me, I would love that. And Psychology Today is a great source. I think there's a ton of research in a book that I value a lot called Helping Children Succeed that talks about early childhood programming and why things like Head Starts exist, and gives a lot of research and data there. I think another super important piece that probably some of those articles were getting at is how you do the early childhood programming. If it's very teacher directed, it probably can be harmful. If there's more like some of those things we talked about with behavior, like autonomous play and those types of opportunities, then the socialization really skyrockets through. So I think it's more about how we're doing it than if we're doing it. Any other questions or comments for me?
And I believe when we started going down this path, we talked about it may change or look different next year after 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll have a quick review, I would think, at board meetings on how transportation's going, how the day is flowing to and from.
Yeah.
And then we'll be able to be ready by November, December, because if they have to apply when, March 15th, you said?
Yeah, the application is technically open now, but the application is really between like February and March 15th. Yeah. And that puts us a little bit behind some of the other ones in the community, so.
I appreciate all your work, though.
Yeah.
At what point will you fill the open 2 spots in each classroom? Or will you leave those?
or from the 18 to the 20.
Correct.
The plan, so like I said, the full day, because we had some people, as much as we were having them, that didn't apply, and then, and actually we had a new family move into the community that was eligible for free preschool because of some risk factors. The full day is already full to 20, and we're at 17 or 18 for the morning session. And so I was rotating through and offering that 18th spot to anybody that was on that list to see if they wanted it. But if we have anybody apply that meets those risk factors that are in the policy, then they would get a spot right away and we fill to 20 at any given point. And same would be the case for the afternoon preschool too.
But so if August
plan would
rolls
be-
around
yeah.
and there's only 18, will you offer those 2 spots?
No.
Or will you hold those vacant for the
We
full
would,
year?
we would hold those vacant, yeah.
So what
And that's
happens-
the way, similar to how we do it with our Head Start program now.
So everybody applies at the same time, you've got some open spots, how do you determine who the 5 are? When they don't meet the IEP and all that, just the standard,
Who the 5 are?
who they are, so we have 5 spots, are you just, I mean, cause you have 20 people all sign up at the same time, put their stuff in, how do we choose that 5?
So we go through, so that's how we.
What if they all have the same criteria?
Then I went in order of application. That happened. I mean, like by the time you get 95 apps, there's a bunch of people that are the same priority level, and then they went by the first one that applied and went down the list in order.
Like time you receive it.
Yeah, because it's date and when they fill out the Google form, it's time and date stamped of when they applied. So I went in the order they applied.
So first come, first served.
Yeah.
I don't know, to me, I think that could be something that we could look at a lottery.
Yeah.
If they're all applied the same day, it's open from 8 to 5. And then it's.
Yeah. And if we want to do a
I'm just saying,
lottery,
that's
I'm
just
fine
my
with that
take
too.
on it, you do a lottery, everybody applies, if it's open from 8 AM till, because if you can't get in the computer, can't get it fast enough, you get,
Sure.
just because you're the 6th person on the same day, and 30 seconds later, that you don't get an opportunity, for number 6, that'd be the only thing I would say if I was to do something
Yeah.
different.
And I would be totally fine with that. I think as long as we do it the same,
Yes,
you know what I mean, then that's fine with me. But if that's something that everyone agrees on, let's do a lottery instead of first come, first served, that's fine. Let's put it in the policy and then we have it there. I'd be happy to do that. Okay, anything else for me?
Any other parts of the policy, questions, considerations?
Sounds good.
Di, do you want me to remember you for the Early Childhood Advisory Committee?
Please.
Okay, sounds good. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Good job, Ben. Moving on to 4.3, discuss the proposed strategic plan, Brandon.
Okay, I wrestled with how to do this. I went with discussion tonight, approval in May. NASB will probably be in attendance in May just to walk through this with us, especially where I didn't get the clean version until this morning. You do have the clean version in front of you. Wanted to highlight just a few things on it. If you look on page 5 of that attachment, guiding principles. So NASB uses these 10 guiding principles to draw from the strategic plan.
I can't open it, Brandon.
Yeah, we
It won't
I'm
download.
gonna download.
it's not in a form that the
Yeah.
computer recognizes.
Okay. Give me just a second here.
And when you send via email,
Let's do
yeah,
this.
let's open that.
I'll project it here tonight, and then I will send you a copy of the clean version. Okay, so within this document, NASB has 10 guiding principles that they use. They're drawn from Marzano, from Danielson Instructional Models, from State School Board, from AQuest. It's kind of 10 categories, and some of them probably sound familiar because they'd be the same things that you would see on my evaluation with the tool that we're currently using. They went through, so they took survey data from many different groups, teachers, students, admin, public, parents, We had a couple nights of public input. We also had a continuous improvement team that participated. From all of that, NASB took 4 kind of guiding principles to focus on, and then laid out some strategies to do that. These are the things that resonated most in the feedback from all those groups. First one, student-centered learning environment. A lot of this is going to revolve around MTSS and around continuous improvement. So our 5-year plan when it comes for accreditation and that multi-tiered system for providing supports to students. You can see there's 3 different strategies with recommended performance indicators within there that we would be following and that we would be answering to and gathering anecdotal data. 1.3, it talks about Nebraska Literacy Act. That's going to be part of our continuous improvement, but that outlines that very specifically. When you go down to the second one, cultural inclusion and engagement, there's 2 strategies there. One would be training and professional development for staff and students, with the focus on families. The second one was positive working relationships with entities outside of the school district. Finding ways to continue to support, kind of like our preschool, support those students and those families that would be perceived as at risk. District resources, number 3. This would just be aligning resources with key priorities. Short and long-term goals for facilities planning, for staff planning were the 2 that they had. We have, I think we're partway there on facility planning with our construction project. We've been working on staffing planning internally administratively that we can definitely share with the board. With that staffing planning, it identifies needs as far as staff. It does not prioritize those needs quite yet. Until we get our spaces finished, we were kind of sitting on that. The 4th one is board governance. Strategy 1 is essentially effective, efficient board meetings. Strategy 2 is working relationship with the superintendent. And those are the 2 that they highlight for that 4th one. So they picked out those 4 principles with strategies underneath. If you look at starting on page 11, they took all of the remaining guiding principles and provided some feedback and some input based on what they heard from those that provided information. We can always draw from those. The idea is on a yearly basis. We can amend, we can revise, we can do whatever. This is our document to work through that's going to help guide the district and provide direction. So if, as a team, we decide that one of those 4 principles that they identified may not be the highest priority, we maybe need to dip into the remaining principles, we absolutely can do that. The last thing I was going to highlight, final steps. With final steps, it's going to be assigning staff to manage and oversee, assess the implementation, collect the evidence, report that out, align the plan to the board's annual calendar. NASB can help us do that, and then communicate that progress both internally and externally. As you guys were reading through it, was there anything that jumped out at you? Anything we wanted to talk through? Does this feel like, there's one more thing I want to hit. Does this feel like it touches on important parts that we need to have in our focus?
I'd be real curious what data supports those 4 priorities that NASB selected, and why that would be an NASB selection as opposed to a school board selection.
We can modify this however we want. This is what I'm not sure that we'll see hard data because it is, what's the term?
Embargo.
Not embargoed, but
Do not share.
yeah, basically they have the right to the tool. Like I asked them to share even the tool just a cross-reference with some stuff in ESU, and they would look at ESU's tool and tell us where it cross-referenced and not. But they were not willing to share the tools that they use. They provided the information. Again, this is guidance. We can modify it however we want. I think with NASB coming out next month, having Marcia out, asking those questions would be absolutely on the table.
So when you say they won't share results?
They won't share the tool. With the results, I have not seen any of like pages and pages of data. They have summarized the data that they've collected, because part of it's going to be from survey, but part of it is going to be from in-person conversation, kind of anecdotal documentation that they collaborate together in their process to provide recommendations.
It just seems like there's a lot of subjectivity in how they arrived at those top 4 unless they can validate
Right.
the data to support that.
Yeah.
100%. Now, why you couldn't, I'm not asking for individualized who they are, just give us the data.
Admin that sat through kind of that discovery meeting, anything to add there, anything I'm missing?
About the data specifically?
Or just the?
Yeah, on the data part.
No, when we went through, they picked the top 4 priorities or 4 or 5, and then we went through in groups and talked about our specific ones we went through.
Right.
But we really just tried to hone in on what we need to improve on as a building or a district in those specific ones, and they said at the time you could look at some of the other ones, but they felt like those were the 4 that we needed to tackle.
And we had a lot of good discussions
Yeah.
about it. I think it opened up a lot of
Yeah, I think, sorry.
good discussions on some of the areas that we wanted to really focus on.
I don't feel like and maybe I didn't do a good enough paying attention, but I don't feel like I know much about the data sources. But I think one important step that Brandon referenced that I want to highlight that I do think is very important after the data piece was that after that step, all of the administrators, but then also teachers from all of the buildings that were a representative group, looked through it, and basically that hour and a half was really like, do we feel like that there's anything missing? Do we feel like there are areas for growth or problems to solve that this data doesn't show? And a whole bunch of people come through that, and I don't know that anybody felt like there was anything missing. So I feel like that's an important step that kind of, it was kind of like a checks and balances.
I guess the one that stands out to me is personnel effectiveness, which is foundational to all of these, and it's really hard to ask the personnel to say, we think that should be on the list, right? That's just an implicit bias. And so it seems like the board should have a pretty strong voice in what these 4 priorities should be.
And you said they'll be at the next board meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I guess there are questions we could ask them too.
Now, are you wanting to vote on a final plan next month, or just open discussion?
I was hopeful to be able to vote on a final plan next month. Having that done, because here was how I saw the timeline kind of playing out. Having that done in May, that gave us the summer to do some of that beginning work on the strategic plan, have a report in August for the board, kind of an overall strategic planning progress. Then it would be a November, a February, and May, kind of every 3 months as far as reporting that progress out. Nothing says that it can't be pushed off until June, if there's still questions to be asked.
I guess one, you go back to them and say, how did you come up with this? What data can we get? What information are we privy to? If you can give it to us, so we can go through it. And then my fear is I want to make sure we have our top 4 are the right 4. Because they can tell us, they can tell us what we're doing, but do we really feel those are the top 4?
Yeah.
I think the proof's in the pudding is your data. Data tells you everything. And the fact that they say that's their formula, they don't want to share it. Aren't we paying for it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And And it almost feels like that same workshop that happened with staff should also have happened with the board.
That I agree
Yeah, I do-
with
I
a
agree
lot
with
with
that
that. That might ease any concerns that we would have.
Yeah, because we do need to arrive at the right board priorities.
Okay, let me throw this one out here. What if we had just a special meeting work session halfway between now and our May meeting? Specifically, NASB comes in and that's the only thing that we're doing is this part.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
I think we can have more question by then, what we wanna ask.
Right. And it wouldn't be for any actionable item, it would be
No.
for work. Okay, I'll reach out to him.
There we go. I mean, yeah, we're paying for data. On the flip side of that, we are paying them to do this for us. So we should trust that a little bit, but it's easier to trust if we can hear where they came up with that data,
Right.
or at least conclude.
The one thing I wanted to go back to is I am not sold on the mission statement options that they provided. I think that is still gonna be a work in progress. I think administration would agree. This was a product of some of the public meeting, we did 2 public meetings in a night. These were the products of those public meetings, but it almost felt a little bit like an afterthought where it was the last 10 minutes, hey, give us some feedback, what do you think? I would like to spend a little more time on that because I think that is not done yet.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, when I look at that, our job isn't to inspire. It's to connect them with the right resources and opportunities and meet them. That has always been my objection to this idea of inspiring. And I think, you know, working on a mission statement is often also a very long and intense and multi-day working session, at least in any of the contexts and businesses where I've done that. So, I'm not sure. I would agree with you. I don't know if those capture
Correct.
what we want our mission.
I just wanted to highlight that. At least touch. It won't be decided on. Anything else there?
Do you, this might be going off on a tangent, would it be your goal or like to have every student in our school be able to tell you or a community member what our mission statement is?
Yes. If it's gonna be important enough for us to invest in it. I think part of that depends on length, like there's some mission statements that get really, really lengthy. If the essence of the message can be delivered, I think that's the most important part.
I agree. And I think it's almost equally as important as it has to be a length in which they're gonna be able to remember it. If it's 5 sentences long,
every 10.
no chance.
Yeah.
I mean, that's short enough, but we can figure out a better way of saying something like that, right? I mean, I've seen mission statements as small as one word, just said go. Now, obviously, that's not pertaining to the school, but
Yeah.
something that our kids can get behind and remember is important to me.
Yep, I got some questions, I'll reach out to them, I'll let you guys know.
4.4, discuss any construction items.
This has just been a standing agenda item, is there anything you guys have questions on?
We only have one, are they progressing?
Yes.
Okay. Like more so than they have in the last 3 months, or about the same?
It's hard to tell in the elevator because they have to do so much excavation and pinning and repacking and all that business. I have no context or comprehension of whether that's on schedule unless they tell me.
Brandon, I know you posed the question of having a follow-up meeting for the construction committee.
Yep.
Do we need to get that on the calendar, just for accountability purposes?
Yeah, I'm okay with getting it on the calendar. I would say sometime towards the end of the school year, because they should have, by that point in time, they should have everything interior wrapped up. it would all be exterior things that are either being addressed, like the parking lot on the south end, or fixed with some of the concrete that's already been laid down. Like the drive in front of the high school that goes towards the bus yard, they've got a lot of work to do there. If you've driven it, if you've looked at it in the dark with your headlights on it, it does a lot of this. And so that was highlighted as unacceptable, and I don't know whether they pull panels, whether they pull the whole drive, but something's gonna have to be done there. So somewhere towards the end of the school year, I'd be fine with. I think give them, because there's a couple PCOs, if I can talk to the committee when we're done, just real quick, to address upstairs and to address locker room gym area. Right now, those are all on the calendar to be knocked out before school year's done.
So let's,
Does it appear they're on track to not, I
let's say
guess that's my
is
concern.
that punch list lower
Yes,
tremendously?
yes,
Because then, okay, that's productive.
yeah, and they're on track to be done. Again, from my eyes, what I see, they're on track to be done with those things by the time we're out of the school.
Have any of the dates slid since our last meeting?
Yeah, Area A upstairs has, but that's our doing, not their doing, our request. Other than that,
What is our request, just so I know?
so I sent you an email last week on some PCOs to take the sink and
Okay,
cabinets out.
okay, that's okay.
That, otherwise it's
No,
done.
okay, that's what it is, okay.
There is one that is slid, but it doesn't have any impact, and I've asked them to stop, is that mechanical yard. The mesh surrounding, I don't think anybody's happy with it, BDH included. Pleskotch Installation, MCL, School District, BDH.
Patrons, everybody.
Yeah, it's not what I expected it to be for sure, and it's not coming together well. So, something else I'd like to cover with the committee.
Are you seeing a sense of urgency maybe that we hadn't seen before?
Yes.
Great. Can we turn to the other construction item, which is a track?
Yep.
Where are we at on that?
I reached out to KSB for documents. It is not within timelines to get done this summer. What Cody is working on for us are documents that we're going to be able to use and take we'll call it measured, but continuous progress going forward, so when we get into the fall, we can start submitting for RFPs, RFQs to go through the process the way that we want to go through the process.
Have they drafted the RFP or RFQ?
Have not yet. He has worked on it, and if he has it done, I don't have it in my possession. He might have it done, because at our last board meeting, we went design build route, and we can definitely do that. I think he has a couple questions outstanding that I need to follow up with him on, just from a board perspective.
So, all of that sounds fine. I think really what we need to do so we don't find ourselves here again, let's not take our foot off the gas. Let's get the documents done. Let's get the questions answered. Let's get positioned to put that RFP out whenever the timing is ideal. And if he could put together a timeline for us, I know that you described it in words,
Right.
but if you could just kind of put together those key dates so we can have a visual of what dates we need to hit to be on track for next year.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other construction items? Moving on, 4.5 administrative reports.
Ben already gave his, all the other reports are attached as far as they were earlier. Brandon, anything else to add on yours?
No, mine didn't attach, and I'm just now seeing it. I'll highlight just a couple things here real quick. Obviously, my goals are on there as far as progress. Construction update, shouldn't be any surprises there. Legislature, there's a couple of updates there. Two of them that I think three of them specifically could impact us significantly. One, LB 653. So the governor had requested no package bills. They call them Christmas tree bills, where you take and pile a bunch under one. And he requested that, and then they turned around and put one together. It has option enrollment for special education, foundational aid, extracurricular access, student discipline, SPED reimbursement. In my mind, it becomes problematic because on the option enrollment of special education, it's regardless of capacity. So even if we are at capacity in, say, our LEAP room in the elementary, where we're serving as many kids as we can, we may still have to take option students into that program, the way that this is written right now. Extracurricular access for non-residents. So somebody could be a non-resident of our district and not attend school here, not do anything, but participate in our extracurricular programs if we offer something that their home district does not offer. For example, like a baseball, and we're the nearest district.
Is that
So it goes by nearest
Nearest
district?
district.
That's what-
I believe it goes by nearest district.
That has no leg, does it?
It's part of this package bill. It has legs. Yeah, it's an expansive bill. I don't know what it looks like, especially since the governor said don't do it, and then they turned around and did it. LB 140, student electronic devices in school, that advanced. That's going to require policy, including consequences with participation from students, parents, and educators. That would be any electronic device. This isn't a cell phone policy, this is everything across the board. The last thing, LB 645, retirement contributions. This is probably going to move forward. Right now, the state has a set 2% contribution. Employees have a contribution, and employers are 101% of employees. Without getting too deep in the weeds, if the retirement fund is less than 96% funded, those measures stay in place. If it goes beyond that, you start chipping away as far as how much is going towards that retirement pot that gets paid out. And it could go as low, now it's never been over 100% funded, but if it's over 100% funded, it would drop the state contribution to 0, employee to 7.25, employer to 7.32. And there's a range in between with that. That's probably got legs. And then the last thing I had on here, congratulations, Mr. Kaminsky, Mr. Berry, they were Region Administrators of the Year, middle school principal and assistant principal.
Good job, boys.
Congrats.
Congrats.
Good? Communications, I didn't see any attached. Anybody from the audience want to comment? If not, I'm not going to read the script. Okay, good to go. Board committee reports. I did not do this meeting.
Nothing.
Anything?
Foundation,
We did have a
Oh, yeah,
foundation
foundation,
meeting. Nothing.
need to find a couple more
yeah,
members.
some new members.
Okay.
So if you know anybody, it'd be good, let us know.
Nomination.
Okay, gotcha. So we should probably add that to maybe bring some nominations for the foundation committee next week, or what?
That's a foundation thing because we
Oh, they
have,
do that.
yeah,
Perfect.
we have 2 board members that
members.
serve in that capacity.
Awesome. They can handle it. Good. Any other board committees met? Going once, moving on. 5, action items. 5.1, discuss, consider, and take any necessary action on the adoption of the state science standards from the Nebraska Department of Education.
You get to jump from me for a little while here. So I did share out a kind of a written draft of the process and then the changes regarding past science standards and the currently the ones that the state has currently adopted. Our science teams have looked at them. The majority of the changes you'll see in that crosswalks document as well, that those were listed K5, all of the changes there. There were 6 total changes in standards and indicators for K5 throughout all grades. Majority of all of these are just language based. So they have added some different verbs and made some different changes there in terms of what the past standards were. Our high school staff had no qualms about it, but the majority of the standard changes were in anatomy and physiology in that department. And Mr. Nicola did not see any issues with the large number of shifts, I guess, or wording changes there. So.
Any questions for Josh?
Just for your reference, we still do follow. We did not jump on board when the state was prompting or trying to move people to like a Science 1, a Science 2, where they were, life science, physical science, space at each of the grade levels. We maintained our kind of focus where we were. So we're still teaching general science in 9th grade, biology in 10th, chemistry in 11th, and then all of the plus standards or advanced courses. Basically chemistry and beyond are all advanced courses, and there's still plans to keep chemistry as a required class for all graduates. So just so that you're aware, there are other districts that have made that change, but we elected not to at that time. So the recommendation would be to approve the Nebraska State Science Standards.
Is there a motion to support that recommendation?
I'll make a motion to accept the state of Nebraska standards for Nebraska education for science.
Second.
Discussion. Alyssa?
Alex?
Yes.
Di?
Yes.
Brett?
Yes.
Renee?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Yes.
5.2, discuss, consider, and take any necessary action on the math curriculum purchase for the 25-26 school year. Joshua?
On that second attachment in this area, you'll see kindergarten. I'll just start at the top. Kindergarten through 8th grade. I met with the math curriculum team early in the school year. We knew that our current materials adoption process, the cycle was ending. We had done a 5-year purchase previously. Their unanimous feedback was to maintain the course, stay where we are. We're going to, the proposed adoption for the renewal of those materials is 2 additional years. At that time, we'll review the entire K-8 program. So 2 years will maintain the course. You'll see kind of high-based budgets there. I still have to go back to the drawing board with a few of those things and possibly trim some of that, but that's the maximum budget of expense for K3 and then 4-8. High school math, we have a proposal for Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2 materials. You'll see that's a 3-year contract. Pre-calculus, new materials there. And then the alignment, you will see better alignment between pre-calculus and calculus, and the calculus is a calculus for AP. So we're improving materials there, and also the hope that students would have access to an AP exam if they would want to pursue that down the road. Currently, right now, interest in pre-calc is probably as high as it's been in a while. I think right now we're at 24 students, so hopefully that would continue to maintain, and then we would push those forward. So that's kind of why those numbers are a little bit higher. We have a few more students following that track. 6-8 science, we adopted Amplify Science was the materials that we were using 7 years ago, 8 years ago. Those have expired and at the end of this year, so the recommendation after we looked at, I think, 3 different material sets, and unanimously was to go with Open SciEd. It is a free free resource that we can customize and tailor. So in terms of like a pacing guide or scope and sequence, I don't have that to give that to you now. I can give you access to the program. It's just online. Anybody can see those things. But we will have some work to do this summer with the teachers to put that program together. So it will be integrated 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So by that I mean you'll see a little bit of earth science, a little bit of life science, a little bit of physical science at each of those grade levels. So we will work through that. The staff's feeling and mine as well is that the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. I mean, there wasn't the financial contributions of that would have taken to purchase some of those other materials was less than what I feel our staff can do with, you know, a little bit of time to put that stuff together. So, and then high school science, you'll see the recommendation is to just maintain the current materials, and I just listed all of those textbooks out there for you as well, what we're using at each of those grades.
Questions for Josh on the curriculum first? Is there a motion to approve?
All the variety of vendors and not to exceed 95,281.83. Make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Alyssa?
Brett,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Alex.
Yes.
Renee.
Yes.
5.3, discuss, consider taking any necessary action on the MacBook and iPad purchases from Apple.
As I shared in an email a couple weeks ago, Megan is working on a plan to more concretely be able to budget on a yearly basis technology purchases while upkeeping those things as technology turns over. Her plan is for iPads for incoming 5th graders and 9th graders on a yearly basis, and then they would carry those forward for the 4 years that they're in that building. At the end of those 4 years, they would have an opportunity to purchase, or those would be sold back, or those would be used elsewhere in the district. So each year, that first year you come in, with a new machine, you have that opportunity once you go out. In the past, we've been on 4-year cycles for technology for devices. This one is a little more expensive than it'll be in upcoming years because it also includes staff devices. Those are up for renewal as well. So this number this year is more than it should be in future years.
Does the process look the same in terms of checking out at the beginning of the school year, checking back in, or because it's an assigned device, do they hold it for 4 years?
No, they'd still check it in, check it out and check it in during the school year they would have it. Over the summer, she would have to do maintenance on it. But in the past, they'd always wiped them and then re-imaged them. Now she's not gonna have to do that because it's gonna stay with the same student all the way through. If student checks out of school from here, obviously she would wipe it and then go to somebody else.
Questions on the Apple purchase?
So, a few years ago, when I was looking at like the one-to-one idea that we were seeing kind of sweep the nation, I asked if it helped learning, and the opinions that I got back from superintendents, several across the state, said for the average student or the excelling student, no, but for students with maybe some more challenges, it can be helpful. Is that still the situation?
I think, and principals, I'm gonna come to you here in a second, so think about this. I think it helps all students with direct learning of specific information, maybe not, depending on the class, but given the direction that higher education or continuing education, when you get into your field, goes, being able to utilize a Canvas or an online organization system, I think are skills that they're going to have as well, which is what our teachers are already doing in those classrooms. Principals, anything to add?
Well, I was gonna say that from the middle school standpoint. We still do a lot of paper pen, all the book stuff in the middle school. I was gonna say exactly what Brad said. A lot of it's the organizational piece, with Canvas and just organizing assignments, grades, taking quizzes, those types of things. It's not necessarily they're working on iPads all the time, but it's more of an organizational piece for the middle school students. I mean, yeah, they do, there's no question they use them a lot, but we do a lot more than what people think, a lot more paper, pencil stuff.
I think as you move to high school, some sophomores, the majority of our juniors and seniors all take at least a dual credit class or a college class, all of which use their devices, whether they're in person with that and they're through Southeast, or they're if they're all online. And so as far as, you know, I think as a teacher, I think there's value in paper, pencil for sure, and I think there's value, I was an English teacher, I think there's value in reading books. And not just looking, but we read novels with our books, we do, so I think we try to use it as a combination as well. I think it's, like every tool, if you use it well, it's really, really good, and if you don't use it as well as you need to, then probably not as effective as you'd hope. But I think there's lots of places where it's very valuable for the majority of our students, for sure.
Other questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the purchase from Apple for devices and care for an amount not to exceed $330,140.
Second that?
Further discussion? Alyssa?
Diane,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Renee,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Moving on, 5.4, discuss, consider, and take any necessary action on pay application number 23 and number 24 from MCL on the current construction project. Brandon.
And I will leave this to your discretion. Pay app 23 is from last month, that's ready to go, that's fine. Pay app 24, we got on Thursday, I think. I got responses from Russ and BVH that they've signed off on what MCL provided. So we could pay that application as well if you so chose.
Brandon, I think pay app 23, somebody had wanted some revisions to that last month, right? Either Russ or BDH didn't like something on the pay app. Is this the revised
Yes.
version and
Yeah.
it incorporates that?
Correct. This is what BVH signed off on.
Got it.
Any questions on pay apps 23, 24?
I'll make a motion to pay application 23 and 24 to MCL. For the current project.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Alyssa?
Brett,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Renee.
Yes.
Moving on, 5.5, discuss, consider, and take any necessary action on personnel resignations and or hirings. You have some resumes attached. Brand.
So a couple considerations here. One, we have one resignation from Leighton Ware from our local department, effective at the end of the school year. We've also got 3 recommendations for hire for special education, music, and media specialists. It would be done in 2 motions. You'd have to do the resignations in a motion, and you'd have to do the hirings in a motion. Admin, anything to add on recommendations for these teachers?
Shelly and I did the hiring for special education for Andrea Erke. We're so excited about her. She has 11 years of experience as a special education teacher. She's currently teaching 6th grade at Waverly Middle School. And we're very fortunate to have her apply. We actually had several applicants, but many of our applicants didn't have experience in special education, and so yeah, we're super excited.
And I think that's a little bit of a common theme of what we see with applications. We're not getting as many applications, and we're not necessarily getting people that are certificated in that area as their primary. It's something they're going back and doing in the process of doing. some of those things.
We need to make a motion to accept the resignation first, right?
Well, so can we talk about the other two positions? How many candidates did we have for the media specialist?
There were 5 total. One of those was certificated, that had current certification in state. There was a retired person on their second job after their retirement. And then one was certificated in another state, and then the other 3 were not. So,
And the recommendation is to bypass the 2 who are actually certificated with experience in that area?
yes.
Any particular reason?
I think to start with, you're trying to figure out what's best for kids. We feel really good about our interview process and going through, we feel like we found somebody that's gonna do a good job and is gonna work hard and is gonna be good for kids. And at the end of the day, that's, as for all of us, I feel like it's gonna make, whether it's our media position or anything else in there, I feel like it's gonna make it better than what we have right now.
Okay.
I think it also provides some stability in that position. We're going on our 3rd person in the last 3 years there. I think we found somebody that's gonna be here for a long time and make it a home and make it a good place.
In the media specialist position, because the cover letter did not even mention any desire to be in a media specialist position. It was for a science position. So we had some candidates who actually have experience or were certificated, but we chose somebody who didn't even express an interest in that position. Will he move out of that as soon as a science position opens up, since that's his experience?
That's always a possibility when you have multiple certifications. Even if he goes through and completes everything for media specialist, if another position came open, maybe, I don't know that for sure. I think.
We had that situation happen this year where one teacher left one department to go to another. That happens internally.
I'm just speaking, Robert, to the fact you said that this person will provide stability in the media specialist position versus the people with experience who applied for the job.
For sure. I can't predict the future, but I foresee him staying in that position. But none of us can predict that.
How about on the vocal music side, how many applicants did we have?
I believe there were 13.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How many of them had experience? I know the recommendation is a brand new grad. How many actually had experience?
There were probably
Less than 4.
4 or 5, yeah.
So what forms the basis for this particular recommendation?
I read through all the applications. One of the last ones that we interviewed came in late, but it looked like it was a possibility for for an outstanding person, so we squeezed an extra one in there. But I made calls on 6 different applicants to try to figure, and we narrowed it down to 4. It's the same process I used when we hired Miss Ware. Other than we added Miss Rude, who wasn't here at the time, it was the exact same interview committee. It was the exact same process that I did the last time. She had 1 year experience when she came here. The young lady, Miss Von Campen, that we liked to offer this position to, was at Elkhorn North last year in a pretty good place there. She's got a really good musical background when you look at her family and kind of what she knows and where she's been, and we're very excited for her. We're sad to lose Miss Ware because she did a great job, but I did the exact
I think the university, a lot of those are the professors that recommended them to us. I have a ton of respect for not only our administration but our music department, and gave us some high quality information on all of these candidates.
So in your guys' opinion, all of you guys, because obviously everybody you're on the team, you felt like we hired the best?
yes, absolutely.
Perfect.
Because
the
if we
rec-
don't, it's more of a problem for us.
Right.
Was the recommendation unanimous among all of the
It was.
people on the committee?
It was. Yep.
So we do a recommendation for the,
Resignation first.
No.
there's one recommendation. I'll make a motion, I get my glasses on, to approve the resignation of Leighton Ware.
Second.
Discussion? Alyssa?
Mike,
Yes.
Di,
Yes.
Alex.
Yes.
Renee,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Bob.
She was a rock star. That's for sure. Now, is there a motion to approve, is Erky, Campen, and TJ O'Connor?
Make a motion to approve those three, Ms. Erke, Mr. O'Connor, and Ms. Von Campen,
I'll second
for
that.
those positions.
I'll second it.
Further discussion? Alyssa?
Di,
Yes.
Alex.
Yes.
Renee,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Hey Brandon, can I ask you a question? How, what kind of training and how regularly does, like, our administration team, even all the administrators, in things like personnel management, employment best practices, all of, sort of the personnel side of this, from effective interviewing to performance management, to growth and development, to change management, to all of those
Yeah.
things, how often are you guys getting trained on this?
At least yearly, we have the opportunity through administrator days, through NCSA, KSB, we'll do several trainings throughout the year that we have the opportunity to participate in. So I guess I should qualify a difference between opportunity and going through it. I know I do it on a yearly basis. And I feel pretty confident that the rest of the team does some training on a yearly basis in personnel.
Is it possible to get a copy of those materials?
Yeah, I'll see what I can come up with.
And is it, I mean, is that something that is part of sort of the expectations of the position and a performance review, that to continue to build those skills? Because that's a really critical piece of the role. Thank you.
Items for next regular meeting.
Hey, I'm looking at my notes. We were supposed to talk about the lunch program.
Okay, I can give a quick update before we go. Nothing, not a ton to add. We had I shouldn't say that. We had two that attended the walkthrough that was mandatory in order to be able to respond. Lunchtime Solutions and OPA, OPAA exclamation point. That's
OP what?
OPAA exclamation point. That's the company.
Okay.
So we had two of them that showed up. Those are due May 5th, and then we'll go through the process of evaluation, just like we did with construction and anything else. We have criteria from that RFP. My plan is in May to be able to satisfy a contract and get them working over the summer, so when we start the school year, we're ready to go, if that's the direction we go. If we don't get any responses, then we gotta figure out a plan B.
What about, have we ever looked at a nutritionist? A nutritionist on campus, I mean, there are, those are out there, that's what they do.
Yeah, we have not.
Brandon, were you expecting a higher walkthrough rate?
I was a little bit, to be honest, for as many, because there were 7 or 8 companies that requested information. And in conversation with NDE, they felt confident that we would get a really good response, given the size of our school, given our location near Lincoln and Omaha. And I'm not sure if there's just that many more schools going this direction, that resources are limited, or if once they got digging into the RFP, they didn't feel like they could satisfy what we were asking for. I don't have feedback there.
Or, anyone that you have talked to, because I know you've been talking to different districts, either of them have either of those vendors?
Yeah, I would say OPA is fairly new. They're more Missouri-based. I want to say they're out of Kansas City, but they're trying to get a foothold in Nebraska. Lunchtime Solutions is the other one, and they have a strong presence in Nebraska.
Anyone that we wouldn't think, I mean, who uses them?
Yeah, people that I've talked to. Initially, I can't even remember the second one, but they were one of the two when I started the conversation. This is who people use. It was Lunchtime, and I don't remember the other company.
What is district schools, I mean, our county schools, what are they, like Ashland, do they have a service, or they have in-house?
No, they're in-house right
So
now.
who in our district has a service?
I would have to go back and.
Or just somebody that, of our,
Syracuse does.
Syracuse
Lunchtime
does?
Solutions.
What do they pay a year? Man, that to me, I'd like to know, that would actually be good knowledge to know, what is somebody like that getting from a district to run the cafeteria?
Like company-wise?
Yeah,
Okay, so the way that works is, and the way we wrote the RFP, is the company is guaranteeing us a dollar amount back to the district,
right,
and then they run the program
so what's that dollar amount?
that they're giving back to us.
Yeah, what's Syracuse?
That's gonna be part of their proposal. I would guess a district our size, and this is a super rough guess, so don't stick me to it, but I would guess somewhere between $10,000 and $30,000 that goes directly into our lunch program to pay for capital improvement, equipment type stuff. All those other costs are incurred through the company. Food and all that business.
We go through them.
Yeah.
There still should be a baseline I can look at and say, hey, this is what Syracuse, this amount of students, these are what the fees are, this is what's going back to school. I just think, we're spinning our head, I'm spinning my head like, well, we got a new company coming, why are we settling for these two? Well, there could be somebody that could perform the same services that's out there, that we just don't know it. They may not be, maybe doing it on a catering business.
Do they get to set their own lunch rates then? If they have to guarantee us a certain return?
So they are a part of setting the lunch rate, but they also have to abide by NDE guidelines when setting those lunch rates. So what I anticipate seeing is lunch rates are gonna go up some. I don't think it'll be extravagant, but they're gonna go up some because in the interpretation, the quality would improve as well. Plus, there's gonna be more options because that's part of that's the way the RFP was written. I'll reach out and see what I can find out.
That's the information we can get off.
Yes, all of that'll be part of what they'll submit.
I just have a quick question too.
Yep,
Buses and bus drivers,
yep.
do we need to look at paying more, or what, why are we not?
I will give you my opinion.
Okay,
Pay does not impact that. We've fought this for as long as I can remember, as long as I've been here. Even when I was at Takema, we were in the same boat. Right now, when you compare our pay rates on bus drivers, we are one or two in the area, regardless of size of district. That would be like a Raymond Central, an East Butler, a Cedar, a Meade, a UTAN, those people that we would compete with. We pay just about as much as anybody for buses. I think it's twofold. One, a lot of people don't want the responsibility. And two, the state is making it really, really difficult to get your license to drive a bus. For example, we have a teacher who had a CDL, let it lapse, decided they'd go back and get their CDL to help us out because they know we're short on drivers. They couldn't even pass the walk-around test to get on the bus to drive it.
what are people doing? Are they doing services then?
Services are struggling as well.
Wow.
For example, Student Transportation of America is going out of business. They contract with Platteview. Platteview doesn't know what they're gonna do for busing next year. Once again, because they can't find drivers. People have plenty of buses, but it's a people thing that, and like Mr. LaValle said, I think the requirements, certifications that are put on us by the state are really hindering our ability to be able to hire people or have people available.
Walk-around test. What,
So as part of your certification, you have to do a walk around, and then you have to do a physical drive, and then you have to do the park and all that. The first part is you've got to pass a walk around test for CDL for a big bus. And because they're requiring very specific industry-based language, it's fairly difficult for a PE teacher
Like engine parts and.
to be able to pass that part of it,
Wow.
which is super frustrating. And a lot of districts, including us, have reached out to the state just saying, you know, what can we do, and we don't get much of an answer.
Let's farm plate all our buses. Don't need CDL.
Is anyone lobbying for some changes to legislation in that regard? Any groups, educational associations, school lobbyists?
It's been discussion, I don't know where it stands as far as legislation. Because of the number of education bills, it's something I can look at, not to my knowledge though.
But I mean, they passed new legislation, right, making it much stricter.
Correct.
So, we need someone to roll that back.
I think sometimes they put that in with just regular staff, and so that's always an issue. You know, like your paraprofessionals, they kind of lump them into that, and so it's never really a separate issue.
And currently, to finish out the school year, we're down 3.5 drivers. Well, we'll get a half driver back as he'll be done coaching baseball here at the end of May, but we have 2 that are leaving on medical leave, and another one that took a new job, was doing morning and afternoon routes for us. His new job does not give him that flexibility, so it's a super big crunch right now in the transportation department.
And I could talk for, you know, my dad does it, and doesn't really want to do it, but he's doing it because he knows that we don't have anybody. If we had people, he wouldn't be doing it. I mean, that's just kind of where we're at right now with.
How many bus drivers do we currently have?
Oh, with their CDL, I want to say 7.
How many do we need?
On a morning and afternoon route, a minimum of 4. So maybe, well, it was 5, we condensed to 4 because we knew these drivers were taking medical leave. So,
But then we have
yeah.
2 mid buses that run. We have a route that goes to Independent, we have a route that goes to Blair, and one that goes to Omaha.
So do you foresee vans becoming the new norm because you don't need a CDL?
We've had to use vans a lot more.
Well, I'm
this
just saying,
year.
is new vans, 16 passenger vans or bigger vans the answer?
I think okay, so this is a more complex conversation. So traditional vans, the best you can do is 10 plus a driver, maybe 9 plus a driver. It used to be 15 passenger, and they did away with the wheelbase from the state, said it's a rollover concern. So they went to a shorter body, but then they also had that it had to be certified by the manufacturer, basically a tag on the door saying, yes, this is what this van is for, which of course puts liability back on the manufacturer, which they don't want any part of. Right now I'm trying to find at least a van to replace what we have in the Suburban. We need to replace the Suburban and one of the minivans this summer. I'm working on finding a van, like a transit van. But again, it's not like you're getting 15 or 20 people on a transit van.
So you can have on a transit 12 or 10?
10, maybe 11, depending on manufacturer certification.
So the state says you can't have a 15 passenger use for schools anymore.
Yeah. You can go to a different body style, like a mid-bus type style.
Okay.
That's still considered van-like. That goes up to, I think, 14.
So you could, but you probably still could buy a, are you saying it's because of the wheelbase or the number of people in the van?
So the old 15-passenger vans,
I have one.
they were on a wheelbase short with a long back end. They said those are no longer allowable, and they went down to, again, I don't remember, 10 plus a driver, 9 plus a driver, as far as what was acceptable for vans.
I'm just saying, is it a lane thing or a number of seat thing? If it was a number of seat thing, you take the back 2 seats out and you,
No, can't do that. We tried that at a previous school. It has to do with the length.
So if bus drivers were plentiful, how many would we want on staff?
800.
The other thing to take into account is outside of just regular routes,
Right, that's what I'm
any
saying.
activities
Yeah.
during the day.
How many do, I don't have a sense of how many we're short.
A lot.
oh, a lot.
I mean,
10?
I would
at a minimum of 10, but the hard part is it's then also getting people to take, you know, some people are interested in marching bands, some people are interested in football. Not, you know, I mean, it's then getting people to take those routes. And
Well,
take
you
those
baseball,
trips.
we're thank God we have Kula for the reserves.
Right,
Or
yeah, you know, like
there's
that,
a driver
yeah.
where the varsity JV could be going somewhere. If he's not coaching, we may not have a bus driver at all.
Right.
I mean,
How many of our current coaches, teachers, and administrators can drive a bus?
So we have one middle school teacher, one high school teacher, and then 2 of our maintenance department. And our principals and Mr. Lau have been super gracious to allow me to use those if and when possible. But unfortunately then when we do have to do that, it takes them out of the classroom or takes them out of our building doing their daily maintenance things. So it's really, really inconvenient for all those people to transport our kids, but they've been gracious enough to give their time to do that.
We have, and then there's another staff member that's in both the elementary and in this building, and she's getting trained, so should be able to at some point in the future, probably May.
and what's the signing bonus for getting a CDL from us? We do a signing bonus at all?
We haven't done a signing bonus, but we pay for all training, licensure, all that business.
Something we should look into, a signing bonus, $500, $1,000. You get 500, beginning of the year, you get another 500 in the school year. You go get it, you pay for your training, and then incentive bonus. You get it when you get hired, and then a year you get the other half 6 months into it.
You may have to look 1,000, may not even do the training.
Probably thinking probably more, but
I don't think it's money.
We have to lure some people in, right?
Luring people in that are qualified applicants is one thing. Allowing them to actually get their licenses out of our control.
Agreed.
What about exit meetings with like retired administrators? Maybe they wanna come back and drive bus for us.
They
Can
got
I-
to pass
can I-
the test.
Has
Can I
anyone
retire?
asked Mrs. Weebold?
I really don't think it's a money thing. I mean, I think that would help, but just because we lure them to the table doesn't mean.
here's the deal, at the end of the day, we offer it, if we get no takers, then it's not about money. But if we do offer it, and then we get 5 takers, it is worth the money.
It's trying to pull those people who currently have a seat. That's really what you're trying to lure in.
I think, I have a nephew that's in Kansas City that drives 2 days a week. He does 2 routes back and forth from Kansas City to Emporia, and he makes almost 100,000. He works 2 days a week. So the problem is, then you get that certification, there's a lot of opportunities to, I mean, has to be a little bit of a higher cost, and you wanna come and help, and you wanna take 60 third graders to the field trip. And so that's the challenge, is that if you have that certification, because it's so hard to get, you can make more money, you can make so much money somewhere else.
Yeah.
We can't compete with that, so we have to find people that are willing to, and usually they're people that retired, or that they're people that are school people. 'Cause-
That's for retirees,
yeah.
retired CDL.
They're hard to find.
Anything else for next meeting? Sam, Wilma, Bryce? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of adjourning this meeting, say aye. Aye.